Hello and welcome to the third episode of 3ta Kura. Himal dai, आजको 3ta कुरामा चाहिँ first कुरामा I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, can machines create art, or would you even call that art?
Well, yes, it is possible for machines to create art. There are various ways in which this can be done, including through use of artificial intelligence, algorithms, and other computational techniques. One approach to creating art with machines would be using machine learning to analyze patterns and trends in existing works of art, and then you generate original new work based on those patterns. This can be done with like a variety of media, including images, music, and text. Another approach would involve using computational techniques to generate art based on specific parameters or rules set by human artists. For example, an artist might create a program that generates a series of abstract images based on a set of mathematical equations, or a musician might use a computer to compose a piece of music using specific sets of musical rules. Overall, the extent to which machines can create art is a matter of debate, and some people argue that true art can only be created by human beings. However, there are many examples of machine-generated art that have been widely appreciated and admired by audiences. Now, this is not my answer.
I was hoping so.
This answer is from ChatGPT-3, the AI which got us interested into this conversation, basically. So that's what an AI thinks when you ask it if machines can create art.
That is scarily accurate, because it's not just a description, it's also like a debate, because it's looking at the same thing from different perspectives.
Exactly. It's not doing random shit. It's like it's picking up the right things and all of that. I saw this example. Just there's this joke in India, pan masala ka ad, weird ass ads. Somebody tried to ask this AI to write an ad for a pan masala with Salman Khan in it.
Okay.
You read the description of the ad, it reads like a Salman Khan ad. Like if Salman Khan was to do a pan masala ad in your head, that is exactly what it would look like. So it's basically analyzed all of those things, okay? But it's crazy good. Okay?
Yeah, I think after we got interested in this and we were doing some research, I also got into it, and I asked it to write a song about changing the world. And it wrote an entire song. Like that song can be turned into a pop song. Okay? And that's what I was thinking. If you're ever stuck, I'd say personally where I found the use of this is, I don't know how ethical this is. Since this is all new, like the drawing ethics goes, like people who are stuck in the creative block, it's so easy for them to just type some things out, get some inspiration, maybe not exactly copy what the AI has given you, but to get some inspiration. I'd say personally, when you're doing an assignment, especially when you're doing your master's or you're doing a PhD, because you have to write a lot of papers, and the papers lekhnu bhanda pani is the what to write about is very garo to decide, because there's so many things you want to do, there's so many things you want to research about, there's so many things you want to write about, and then when you specifically tell the AI what you're thinking, or यसमा चाहिँ के टपिकहरु गर्नु मिल्छ भनेर it lists out like specific topic तिम्रो input हाल्यो भने it is, and I found a use in that. So I think I'm going to use it for choosing on what I'm going to do my assignments on.
Exactly. And this is very interesting, I know. Obviously there's a lot of debate around what's good and what's not, and it takes me back to DALL-E basically. And DALL-E was also crazy when it came out. It was incredible because for me I had never seen anything like that, and so when I first got my hands on it, I was asking it to do all sorts of things, and we were asking for, so DALL-E it depends a lot on the
but
prompt.
you also got early access to DALL-E, no?
I was trying random things like a Nepali man in the style of this or a style of that, and we asked for an angry trash can in the style of Picasso, for example, and it can do those things. So त्यसमा हामीले सिका चाहिँ DALL-E चलाउँदाखेरि चाहिँ you have to give it things it can do, you can't give it things that are coming from somebody's imagination. I can imagine what an alien cat entering the afterlife would look like. because I have an image of what afterlife could be, cat perspective and all of that. It's a little more complex. The machine couldn't, because it was trying to piece together cat, afterlife, alien and all of that. That was getting very weird. So it was not able to process those things. But then for something like an angry trash can in the style of Picasso, it knows what Picasso art looks like. It knows what a trash can looks like. It knows what an angry face looks like. Putting those together, it was incredible. I thought it was crazy good.
मलाई चाहिँ I tried my hand on dalle-e होइन. मेबी मलाई चाहिँ राम्ररी त्यो प्रम्प्ट्सहरू दिन नआएको हो कि मलाई चाहिँ I was like trying to be एकदम creative अनि it was like underwhelming for me personally हुन्छ नि. I understand like how it works, and like it takes like a shit ton of data like that is available in the internet, and then obviously like labels or like finds out how what do people mean when they associate this image with this word, and so when you put that words together, they literally like puts images together and brings that up. So maybe like when you tell them to do like tell it to do something that's not so out there, because I was doing like एकदम specific Nepal को कुराहरू के, and then like I was hoping for a more stereotypical अर्कै कुरा निकाल्छ कि भनेर, but at one point I just figured they was taking like Facebook pictures of people who might be Nepali. So like a lot of मैले खोजेको कुराहरू चाहिँ I searched for a Nepali man in the moon like digging के हुन्छ नि, and it showed me like what you would stereotypically see a Nepali worker look like in Qatar kind of, so the लुगाहरूदेखि लिएर सबै कुरा, it was a very त्यो हुन्छ नि, it was not like a typical ढाका टोपी सब के थिएन क्या. It was like a के भन्ने अब stereotypical तराईको worker people who you would find images कतारमा. So त्यस्तो खाले मान्छे चाहिँ digging in the moon के.
Okay.
So I was hoping for a different thing, but it was giving me a different thing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I was looking for things like a human performing surgery, a robot performing surgery on a human, or something that was crazy good was Nepal मैले उसमा use गरेको थिएँ. A Nepali temple in the middle of a city, for example. त्यस्तो कुराहरू try गरेको थिएँ. It was quite interesting actually. अनि मैले Nepali man in the style of Mona Lisa भनेको त्यो चाहिँ मैले Instagramमा नै हालेको थिएँ, if I remember correctly, होइन.
Yes, I think it's
crazy good stuff. So yeah, back to the question. How do you look at it? How do you look at this whole idea of machines doing things we normally consider art?
मलाई चाहिँ I think like art is just the start of it. मलाई चाहिँ it feels like the same thing with when it comes to blockchain हुन्छ नि. अहिले चाहिँ blockchain को people are like just finding ways like NFTs हरू बनाएर चाहिँ that's what I feel like. The technology itself is amazing, but हामीले अहिले चाहिँ we haven't really found the proper use of it. Okay, I think generating art from an AI wouldn't be like as valuable as like like somebody making art, khali, like a person making art. But I feel like this can be extremely like helpful in making designs, okay? Or like some prompt, because I was seeing how AI and machine learning right now you can just put in, because it has the power to process so much data, right? So in engineering, so you can prompt the AI to make the most strongest like हुन्छ नि यति केजी को यो डायाफ्रेम को strongest structure बना भन्यो भने it'll use all the things available, all the information available, and come out with the strongest structure possible. Okay, if you're designing a building हुन्छ नि, if you're designing something that has to be this tall and it has to be this weight and it has to fit into this area, like maybe you'll have to like put together insanely good engineers to do that, or you can just like tell an AI to do it. Okay?
Yeah, so basically instead of humans coming up with different ideas and then using machines to basically अहिले पनि simulated testing त गर्छ, but then instead of doing simulated testing, you get a machine to create things on its own and then push you the best 20 options and then go from there, like a starting point, right?
Yeah.
So this is the best we can come up with, or this is the best the machine can come up with. Humans can then think about, okay, this is what it looks like. What can we do about that? Art, I feel very differently. So this is, you might be able to relate with it as well, because I started off long time back in designing and all of that, which used to be just about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Okay, let's skip that. 12 years ago when graphic designing was not that common or not that accessible. त्यो Photoshop चलाउने मान्छेकैलाई the amount of access you had in terms of business was huge. Because basically photoबाट background हटाउनु पनि it was too difficult. Or like photo अलिकति touch up गर्नै गाह्रो थियो. So basically basic Photoshop skills पनि took you a long way. Logo र text अलिकति राख्ने यताउति पनि हैन. That was what a designer was in many places. नेपालमा पनि धेरै ठाउँमा just being able to do that would make you a designer. Over time, if you see that now anybody can do that. You don't even need to use something like Photoshop. There's apps on your phone, you drag and drop, it's done. Stuff with video editing and all of that.
Yep.
About having known people who learned Premiere to do editing back in the day and then spent hours figuring out every shortcut and all of that to do it efficiently, to now being able to do all of that on your phone and even do very different complex effects and transitions and all of that. I guess it's on that scale. So I think it's also about the art ko case mein we've got this Niki Manchela art one. We think it's this thing, it's divine inspiration. You think of it and something comes up just like. So I guess it's more of, I disagree with that interpretation. I think it's more like it could be true for some people. I'm not saying kasaiलाई आउँदैन inspiration, but for most people it's repetitive work. You come up with it, you improve. So I think you put up a really good example. It can give you the best possible form to start off with and then try out new variations of it to make it more pleasing or to fit it in context. Because context though, then at least maybe eventually AI will also have context when it starts learning on its own. But I guess until then, knowledge of context makes humans a little bit different. But it is crazy good. It
is like time when I was like actually using the ChatGPT thing, it was actually like scaring me time. But then I would ask it questions and it will tell me like I have data only till this time. Like 2021 ko or 2022 ko यो month सम्म मात्र data मैले process गर्न सक्छु. I am not currently connected to any so I can't process current events haru. So that kind of gave me a certainty that this is an insanely good AI thing which works on probability. So ule लेख्दाखेरि पनि how it kind of puts together. I watched some videos on that. Probably चाहिँ मान्छेहरूले कसरी टाइप गर्छ, what's the probability, which word goes after this खाली हुन्छ नि, and it takes a bunch of already written कुराहरू and see what fits हुन्छ नि answersहरू. So obviously when you put 1,000 things and then bring like हुन्छ नि एउटा part from 1,000 things, obviously you're creating new thing. But to think about it, it's not something out of the blue. It's not saying something that hasn't been already said before. It's maybe like saying something that hasn't been said before, but it's been said before in like 1,000 different contexts. त्यो कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ भनेको छैन होला हैन. So त्यो गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ it kind of AI भने चाहिँ it might be a tool, just like you said. It might be a tool to find it might not write your essay for you if you're like thinking of it. It might not write your essay for you, but if you give it all the text and everything that you're doing your research on, it'll give you like एकदमै चाहिने पोइन्ट्सहरू के. Because for you to individually go into like 10,000 books and like or like 1,000 books to research and see what clicks with you, you can just ask like the ChatGPT thing.
Exactly.
And then मलाई चाहिँ now I started to see it more of a tool rather than like it being the main के भन्ने the main goody or like the main
the one thing though deal. The one group of people who should stop asking for money are people who write a certain kind of songs, both like everywhere in the world. हुन्छ नि दुईटा वर्डलाई 50 चोटि रिपिट गरेर त्यसलाई लिरिक्स भन्ने मान्छेहरूले चाहिँ अब केको पैसा माग्ने, because the machine can write actual words which make sense. हैन
मलाई चाहिँ I was listening to some things यस्तो कुराहरू के like eventually like हामीले त्यो बेसिक कुरा तपाईले भने नि जस्तो डिजाइनिङ or something के हामीले basically they will like maybe in the next 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, there will come a point where everything that we do humanly, from like boring things like engineering, architecture or design, this, that, that can be done, will be done by AI. अनि like humans will be just left to do like decision making and creative things.
Exactly.
मलाई चाहिँ कस्तो लाग्छ भने at the end of the day decision make गर्ने चाहिँ still they'll be humans हैन. They'll certain like morality को कुरा आउँछ, what's good what's bad को कुरा आउँछ, and that'll be still decided by humans हैन. अनि तर it'll be used as a tool. Okay? As you use like a group of engineers to find out like make a design, that will be done by computers, you know. Then humans will just be left to do creative things and decision making.
Probably we'll see. It's exciting and scary at the same time, like we said. But speaking of things machines can and cannot do, one thing machines definitely can't do is what happened last week in the finals of the World Cup.
Yes, so we're getting to our dosro kura. Thank you for bringing that up. Oh my god. So hamro dosro kurama we have the 2022 World Cup finals. Oh my god, that was some match.
So first 45 minutes, I have no allegiance. I was not on any side. I am still not on any side. I don't care. I want an exciting match to watch. That's it. And usually if I'm watching a match, whoever the crowd is supporting, I support the other guys because screw everybody. Let's have fun. That's why. First 45 minutes I was watching, France wasn't even trying just to feel back, okay? Because possession pan tha chaina haina, but if you look at where the action was, it was all on the French half. The ball basically came to the Argentinian half for like, it looked like the Argentinians were taking a break when the ball came this side. Otherwise it was constantly there, right? First after depressing it looked like Argentina had the game. And what happened after that? Oh.
Mbappe is one scary guy.
He scored all the goals for France in the finals, actually.
Exactly. I was just here because I was excited. I'm not a huge football fan, you know. But the pub I went to, so I went to the pub with mero sathiharu, you know. And one of them was French, and it was a friend of a friend, and she was like, fuck Messi. Don't get into the media bullshit. Support France. And I was like, herumla, you know. And then there's like a bunch of French people. Everybody like everyone else like except us was like supporting France. Okay, there was like proper French people who were like, French ma gali garra cha, you know, this that, and we were like full on Argentina support, you know. Like त्यो भएर चाहिँ it was just like fun. But obviously first half तपाईँले भने जस्तो it was like boring at one point. I was hoping like the French team like scores a goal, so it becomes an exciting match. Then Mbappe, that guy, bro. I was impressed. Like I think how the Argentinian team played was amazing, but I was like impressed by that one guy. It was like he has my respect.
The French team was mostly a one-man show in terms of scoring. It was a one-man show basically, but then yeah, kya nahi khela tha yaar. Especially it was, I think the first penalty was expected because when he was about to score, it was like, okay, he's not going to miss a goal. He's too good of a footballer to miss a penalty. You know? The second goal was too easy for him. It was like, it was too easy for him. And Argentina got third goal in extra time. I should say, okay, now it's done. No, it was not just we who thought it was done. It was the team thought they were done.
Yeah.
Argentina was celebrating at this point. They were going out in the audience. They were yelling and all of that. And then some guy from Argentina gave the penalty. And then once the penalty was awarded, I was like, okay, it's going to be 3-3. It'll go into penalty because again, this guy doesn't miss penalties. And it's not a tough score to miss. And yeah, the penalty shootout was intense, man. It's like, what's going to happen, Khalega?
But now, after the match, the aftermath.
Exactly.
So we've seen a couple of videos. We've seen a lot of videos actually. The aftermath from like Argentina and like Monaco, like sabai त्यो aftermathहरु चाहिँ आइराको छ हैन. But I think like what's been missing from social media is the aftermath from Qatar itself.
Exactly. Because there isn't any.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to understand. मलाई पनि I think like हुन्छ नि हाम्रो especially हाम्रो प्रोग्राममा चाहिँ so लन्डनमा ओलम्पिक्स भएपछि there was a huge Olympic park that was turned into, now it's turned into Stratford, and there's like a mall, there's like people, settlements there, everything, you know. Our department specially made like हुन्छ नि त्यहाँको whole design and त्यहाँ मान्छेहरु settle गर्नेदेखि लिएर so we actually have to study about like त्यो ओलम्पिक पार्कलाई चाहिँ कसरी दे ट्रान्जिसन इन्टु अ कम्युनिटी कसरी बनायो न्यू सेटलमेन्ट भनेर होइन अनि द्याट अनि आई वाज लाइक थिङ्किङ हाउ द्याट इज लाइक एक्ज्याक्टली डबल क्या दाइ इन कतार बिकज it was already a small country
exactly
and then it just built so much extra infrastructure and now it doesn't even have people to like do anything with the infrastructure okay?
Because London Olympics, I think I don't know exactly what happened, but that might have been one way they sold it to the locals funny because London's already a place where you need more housing the whole Olympic Village was built as future apartments. It was not built as housing for the Olympics. It was built as future apartment buildings which can be used for the Olympics. But I think that was a very smart decision for London because then those apartments would have to be built anyway. And then to accelerate that and all of that, the demand like address garepachi, I think that worked. Who's gonna live in Qatar? That is a big question.
Yeah, and if you look at the article you sent me, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the aftermath so this is Al Jazeera, which is based in Qatar. So the last thing we should expect from this piece is balance. Because it's like it's quoting people from India and Nepal who went into building the stadiums, if I remember correctly, but then basically it talks about immigrants and all of that who were workers who were feeling a little bit sad about this and all of that. I don't think the workers really give a shit about what's happened and what's gonna happen. I think they care about the fact that their job was done, or now they have, I don't know, they have to go back home, but they might be more worried. The circumstances are different. So basically, more than this, the more interesting angle is what's going to happen afterwards. The bigger question is, World Cup attention the IO on the issues of workers and all of that. So to look at the silver lining out of all of this, maybe, just maybe, because अहिले पनि प्रधानमन्त्रीकै हामीले अस्ति कुरा आएर यस्तै प्रधानमन्त्रीकै कन्स्टिट्युएन्सीमा they were promoting free visa, free ticket को कुरा यताउति for workers to go abroad. Just maybe because there was so much attention on all of this. If people care enough to make this a point in the future pani, because now enough people care around the world bhanera jun tyo image gacha ni bahira, I'm not going to say whether I believe that or not. I'm not sure, to be honest. But then does anything happen with that? Will lives get better because people care now?
Yeah, because if we're talking about like the workers, immigrant workers harko matra kura, because it's not slowing down anytime soon.
No, of course not.
The worker migration, like the immigrant, there's still a ton of people going abroad for work, going to the Middle East for work, not just in Qatar, going to Saudi Arabia, going to UAE, like there was a lot of different people, Malaysia, like a lot of different people, different places, and that's not slowing anytime soon. But then it's brought attention to like that, and the world has been watching. So I think we just hope that it still gets the attention that it deserves, and things have a better.
Speaking of that, oh my gosh, you said Saudi Arabia. They're building something called the Line.
Oh, it is NEOM, I know.
NEOM is the bigger project under which this comes all across.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a $1 trillion project in total or something.
Yeah.
What the hell is this?
So we know that how and who's gonna build that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's in the middle of nowhere. I have no idea what they're thinking. I think it makes absolutely no sense yet, because the biggest flaw with this, I have a big interest in architecture and all of that, so I read these pieces. I think this whole Middle Eastern obsession with building the biggest thing, doing the biggest things, that is going to be destructive over time. I have no idea what's going to happen with this project.
I think like now the biggest, better to best thing is there, but now they're like going on a race for the future. They're like, they are just imagining what a future would look like and just like go in there.
Yeah.
So there's this one guy who imagines that a city would be just straight and there'll be one line and they'll connect everything, so you can go to like any place in like 20 minutes, Like
I don't know how that works actually. I have absolutely no idea how that works, because the technology to support that doesn't exist.
They'll build some hola, but they have because layers, and like there's no cars. There's just like trains or stuff that goes, and then you can just get on a train and go left or go right. I mean, just imagining like living in a city where you just walk straight.
Yeah, plus it's, if you look at the scale of it, it's like building, I forget the number, right? Tara, the line is basically as tall as the One World Trade Center, basically, which is the tallest building in the US right now. So it's basically that, but stretched out. Building one of them took the Americans a long time. So if you're building hundreds of them at the same time, when will this be done? Ani, considering that it's a straight line, I know. You can't do it in parts. Okay? You can't do the middle and say this is phase 1 because there's nowhere to go. So how does this work?
If you look at cities, they like cities basically grow organically. There is one thing or one factory. There's 2 shops, and then people come work in that factory. They realize they need a restaurant. Somebody buys it, like makes a restaurant, and that's how like the city just basically grows. It's organic. It's not like London didn't just become a city in a day. Like Kathmandu just didn't become a city in a day.
Exactly.
It's like a time. But when you go to a middle of nowhere and like, ha bhai, like this is the city, come live here. Like everything is made. There is nothing. Because I think like city mache, there becomes like you feel like you're part of the city because you play a role in it. Okay?
Yes, that's fine. It's a very weird idea. I have no idea. Who's the targeted audience, because
I think the targeted audience is just like other billionaires or millionaires who don't want to live with the general population. That's how I see it. To be fairly honest, any of this like modern, because there are a lot of future city projects happening in Japan as well. So I think Hyundai is building their own city. त्यस्तो धेरै कुराहरू छ. In Japan they're building a new city.
Hyundai is building it in Korea होला नि. Hyundai. Are you thinking of Honda?
No. I have to check this out. But it is a car company who's building a city.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we had a presentation about this. And the whole city, it's a small city, but then it's gonna be like the old age care homes, and there's gonna be like flying cars, and there's gonna be everything's delivery, and there's no car transportation. Everything's going to be walking distance or like this khali. So it's all futuristic, but you have to imagine who it's for. Okay? And they've already
is good. Futuristic is good, sure.
Futuristic is
why
good.
In Saudi Arabia? Like if that's your audience, I know. If your audience is super rich people, I know. These people live in California where everything grows. These people live in New York or London where everything is. Or they go to a place like New Zealand where everything is very basic and safe.
They have like good landscape.
You're not really looking at any of those in the corner of Saudi Arabia is what I'm saying basically.
I think we'll just have to wait and see how this
we'll have to wait and see. It looks crazy. Speaking of things that are changing and futuristic and all of that, let's talk about the exact opposite thing, which is our third Kura. And I guess we don't escape an episode without talking about politics in Nepal, or the politics in Nepal never escapes without giving us content. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I
think one thing you have to say that Nepali politics is entertaining. That you'll have to give it. It's not as like...
It's not as entertaining as Indian politics, I'll be honest. Because they are on a different level of entertainment. If you're not living there, if you're living there, scary banta. If you're an outsider, Indian politics is extremely entertaining.
And the media just makes it better.
Oh, yes. Nepal
Nepal.
So last week, हामीले कुरा गरेका थियौँ कि गगन थापा is vying for संसदीय दलको नेताको position, and he was going to come up for the elections, which he managed to. He managed to gather support. He managed to come up. But out of the 89 candidates that were voting, 89 candidates, 89 constituent, 89 parliamentarians that voted, Nepali Congress, but only 25 voted for Gagan Thapa, 64 voted for Sherbahadura Deuba. So basically, the way I'm seeing it is Congress is saying change चाहिँदैन हामीलाई पुरानै जे छ ठिक छ, or Devako Jyotishi is extremely good, let's just go to him and see what's in the future, because that guy was right. Everybody made fun of that Jyotishi. Everybody said, what the hell is this? How can this be true? It is true. He's got it on point.
Oh my god. Pull out the Jyotishi card and I was like, oh yeah. Yeah. Right. Like how can I forget about that? Never take astrology like lightly.
I know. Oh.
Very serious. It's very serious.
Yeah.
But I clearly see that, you know, there's Nepal, I think this is a cultural thing. There is seriously something called as seniority. Especially in party politics. When you join the party, who brings you into the party plays a huge role. How credible you are comes ekdamai down the line. Because everybody is waiting for their cut. Unlike Deuba, I think like he's been in the party for so long, he's probably promised a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of things.
Yeah, that's the only way you get that in Nepal.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's still in the position to fulfill his promises. Okay? Suppose there is this guy in Congress, you know, who's like 5 years agadi, he did something for Deuba and Deuba has promised him something. But he only gets his promise back if Deuba is in the power to like give it to him. So his expectation will be, I'll still keep him in power so he fulfills his promise.
The other thing is, people took a big risk. Right? That requires some kind of admiration, because हेर्ने हो भने नेपाली कांग्रेस भित्र न्यूज पढ्दै जाँदाखेरि the person who supported Gagan Thapa was Shekhar Koirala. He's been a part of the family legacy. यताउति के उठ्ने Shekhar Koirala अब he's gonna come up himself in the election भनेर पनि कुरा चलेको थियो, धेरै कुरा आएको थियो. So I guess it's a sign that he did that. That news was interesting to me. That was at least showing some indication that we're not completely against it. That was one positive sign. And अर्को चाहिँ मैले पढाएको थिएँ प्रदीप पौडेलको कुरा. He is also a parliamentarian from Kathmandu. He was with the Deuba faction at some point. Right? So for him, it was pretty much like breaking his ranks and then going on the other side to support the agenda. You know? That is good. But डर लाग्दो कुरा चाहिँ के हो भने the people who've shown some sort of positivity towards this, there might be political vendetta against these people, and we might not see as much of them. But they took a big risk, which didn't pay off, sadly. Could have set an example, because as much as we dislike all of them, I think Nepali Congress le yochoti त्यति चाहिँ attitude देखाएको हो कि we'll at least have an election, because अर्को दुई ठाउँमा त माओवादी र एमाले को भित्र त इलेक्सन पनि भएको छैन. इनफ्याक्ट हैन, अनि स्वतन्त्र पार्टी भित्र पनि समानुपातिकको संसदको कुरामा इश्यूज आइरहेको थियो भनेर सुनिरहेको थिएँ मैले. सो त्यो हिसाबले हेऱ्यो भने चाहिँ what the Congress party did in terms of at least making an effort is admirable. स्वतन्त्र पार्टीको त्यत्रो ठुलो इश्यू चाहिँ हैन. If you look at what's happening in the other parties, it's a small thing जस्तो लाग्छ. I think it's very representative. We've got to see some names that we saw in activism and then campaigns and all of that actually coming up in mainstream politics. So that is more to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, but this comes down to how democracy works. Okay? This is what I see like any flaws in democracy. It's basically you elect somebody and then like the whole main body, say people who actually become prime minister, people who actually become ministers, is basically picked by the party who is in power. And the only thing that the public can basically choose is which party comes into power. But when all the parties are basically esto, there's no point. Whichever party comes into power, there's no point.
अनि त्यसपछि पब्लिकसँग डिस्कनेक्ट पनि हुन सक्छ नि त. जस्तै अब sure Congress won the election with Deuba at the helm, हैन, तर Gagan Thapa had made it very clear before the elections that he is going to make a move for the top position. Right? So I am thinking that there is a sizable chunk of the population that voted for the party with those hopes as well. So the communication channel पनि त ओपन अप हुनु पर्यो नि कि मेरो पार्लिमेन्टेरियनले गएर संसदीय दलको नेतालाई भोट हाल्न अगाडि लोकल मान्छेहरूले के एस्पिरेसन्सले भोट गरे भनेर पनि त हेर्नु पर्यो I don't think all Congress voters, or at least like 64 out of 89 baneko, nearly 2/3, more than 2/3 of the voters of the party probably did not vote for Deuba.
I think not that. I think at this point, say people are not voting for Deuba. I wouldn't talk about the far west, but except that, I don't think people are actually voting for Deuba. Because Gagan Thapa was on the forefront of this bill, of this election, and he was तपाईँले भने जस्तै तर कोइरालाको कुरा गर्दाखेरि पनि he's run against Deuba like last time also. He's challenged Deuba multiple times to become the party leader, and he's failed multiple times.
Oh.
So त्यो भएर चाहिँ it does not really surprise me when he decided with Gagan Thapa. It's like, if not me, if like somebody else भए पनि who has more support, who can gather more support, like I would support him. So I mean, it still makes sense. But yeah, Nepali politics. I don't know. तर एउटा question चाहिँ like still हुन्छ नि. What do they see as legacy? Because anywhere you go, like जहिले पनि there is a after this यो हुने भनेर हुन्छ नि त.
छैन त्यो त छैन.
त्यो एउटा there is like, I think democracy shouldn't it be like, I think most countries have this. You can only serve for 1 term, 2 term, and then you're not allowed to be prime minister again. Or at US, you're only allowed to be president like twice.
It's 2 terms. Historically, that was not enforced. Up until the Second World War, it was just a thing. It was nowhere on paper. People just set up this thing of not serving for more than 8 years. After the Second World War, during and after the Second World War, you saw the same person win the election thrice. This pachi they put in term limits, and now it's 8 years and as in 2 terms and no more. We had honorably chhodne pani ta kura huncha ni jastai India mai pani people leave. You don't hear of that many prime ministers who've come back over and over again.
Exactly.
Many of them have died in office. That might have been one reason why. But then, other than that, there is a succession plan of some sort. And even if they have a big chunk where they're in the leadership, it moves on. Bhushan Dalko statement थियो कि if you walk into a room of senior Nepali politicians, you meet so many ex-prime ministers, but then none of them are truly ex-prime ministers because they're also potentially the next guy. That's just where we are. So yeah, we have the same old list. Who is the future PM Mandaheri? It's the meet your new PM, the same old PM as there. It's either Deuba or Prachanda or KP Oli, and we shall see. We shall see which one of the Bhutpurva Pradhan Mantri do we get this time. I guess by the next time we record, we'll have a clearer picture. So yeah, that were the 3 things that we were talking about today. We have one recommendation, Aza, from you.
Oh yes. So like I said, to ChatGPT chalanda, I actually it just brought me back to this movie I watched when I was a teenager, and it was about the same thing, because I was the main thing about the AI was it was capable of holding a conversation. Okay? So I could tell it one thing and it'll remember for the second question also. Okay. So I could really see people spending a lot of time and maybe building some kind of a bond with this. You could just tell your secrets, or maybe be your friend, or just share things or do something like that. And it clicked me back to this movie called Her, which has Joaquin Phoenix in the forefront and has Scarlett Johansson playing AI assistant. And that movie is just amazing. If you haven't watched it, do yourself a favor.
I have not. I will check it out.
I say do yourself a favor and watch that movie. It's insanely well written and it's amazing. And it's just it's how it's oily aayera. It was released in 2013. And oily aayera, it's as close to reality as after 9-10 years. It's
right?
It's there. It's there, okay?
Back then it was science fiction. Now it's just science.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. All right.
So we will end today's episode on that. And please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We are starting a very small program, so we would appreciate all the support we can get. So thank you.